I want to throw this out, give this. The portal that was set to open on 2/22/222 was to affect the governments, because it is 12 added. It was a governmental portal. The nation that began in 1776. Because 2 times 2 times 2 times 222 is 1776. The New World Order was set to come into power in 2022. In 1788, the Constitution that was ratified and so forth, we find out from that it was 24. So, we know that it was a governmental portal set to affect the government that began in 1776. We know that it was supposed to come about in 22. It fell on George Washington's birthday, 2/22. And also he would have been 290, which is 11, which is 2. Everything lined up for this. And then suddenly we found out now that what they were going to do was to come in on that day. It was a portal to change governments. The demonic realm, the occultic world, everyone was trying to change the government. They were trying to bring in a new world order. It was set to come in 2022. And then after 2022, by the time 2024 came, there would never be anything like you've ever known would exist again. Government would change forever. But we closed the portal. So now it's shot. That's why you see suddenly people invading and people they're starting to back up and fall apart. It didn't work. Yeah. Now, watch this. Christians everywhere must quit indulging in sin and return to His Word. I believe the greatest sin that has been so detrimental to us as God's family is not even the sins of immorality alone, but it's the sins of not believing our covenant friend. It's the sin of not believing our God and covenant Father in all of His splendor and glory, that He's not sought after anymore. And His supernatural ability and willingness to use it on behalf of His people is not even considered by a lot of His church anymore. That's the greatest sin of all. I want to read you something. Yes. If I can read my writing, I'm going to read this to you. This is an excerpt that was taken, and it's most of the speech given on June the 28th, 1787, at the Constitutional Convention. Benjamin Franklin was speaking to the president of the convention, George Washington, and this was what he said. At that time, the Constitutional Convention was falling apart. They were trying to establish some kind of federal government. It was all falling apart. People started going here and there. People were leaving and so forth. And Benjamin Franklin, 81 years old, the elder statesman of the whole meeting, stood up and addressed the Congress. Listen what he said. This is the one who they say was the least religious of them all. He said, in this situation of this assembly, groping, as it were, in the dark to find political truth and scarce able to distinguish it when presented to us. How has it happened, sir, that we have not hitherto once thought of humbly applying to the Father of lights to illuminate our understanding? In the beginning of the contest with Great Britain, when we were sensible of danger, we had daily prayer in this room for divine protection. Our prayers were heard, And they were graciously answered. All of us engaged in the struggle must have observed frequent instances if a superintending providence in our favor. And have we now forgotten this powerful friend? Or do we imagine that we no longer need his assistance? Franklin went on to say, I have lived, sir, a long time. And the longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth that God governs in the affairs of men. If a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it possible that an empire can rise without his aid? We have been assured in the sacred writings that except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. I firmly believe this, and also believe without his concerning aid we shall succeed in this political building no better than the builders of Babel. And we shall become a reproach and a byword down to future ages. I therefore beg leave to move that henceforth prayers imploring the assistance of heaven and the blessing on our deliberation be held in this assembly every morning before we proceed to business. That's how government sought God at the time. In 14 sentences, Benjamin Franklin quoted 13 Bible verses. This is the way government used to look at the Bible. This is the way we used to seek after God. What you're looking at is we have let people take the Bible out of schools and take God out of our government. And we have elected jackals. And we have people like Boris Johnson and people like that are feeding their own lust. And we have people that are living any way they want to. We have somebody like Trudeau standing there oppressing the freedom of the people. We have somebody that is claiming to be our vice president just cackle like a cauldron stirring witch as she throws her hair back. We have people in government that absolutely do nothing but feed their own filth and their own flesh. And we stand and wonder, why can't we see any freedom happen? Why are we seeing all this shape up? My friends, they are intent on bringing in a power greater than themselves, and it is not the power of our covenant friend who created the heavens and the earth. It is the power of an antichrist yet to come, and they are paving his road and building his house and building his building and getting him ready for the time to come when they think they will all reign supreme in his cabinets, while they will suck the teats of the beast and get their nourishment from his corrupt milk like vinegar flowing into their throats. And they think they're going to do all of these things, and so they blatantly pull God out of everything we do. They come to you and put a mask on your face, and some are even proposing to grab you by an arm and jab your arm with a needle. They talk about and convince you that one little tiny sickness can absolutely wipe out a whole world. And the whole time, while you're looking in the mirror and they're getting you looking at a world they created for you to perceive, they are slaughtering 40 million children a year in abortion mills, and the blood of the innocent is running down the streets of every nation. And it's never called to the attention. And when somebody says something about it, high-ranking government officials with no more brains than an iguana stands up and starts saying, this is okay, it's a woman's right, this is not, and argue the fact of killing the children. All because they can spew their seed and create more at any given time. So they're thought of as nothing. And we're living in such times and such government, and then wonder what emboldens Putin to stand up and invade a sovereign nation. Because there is no fear of God any longer.